Hello BookTube, it's Louise the Big Head Bookworm, lovely to see you, hope you're well, hope you're having a good day, wherever it is you are and whatever it is you're doing. Hello, lovely to see you again, thanks for coming back to the channel. Yes, I've taken a couple of weeks off, not that I planned on doing it, it's just the way the circumstances happened. As such is life. We have had the illness in the house. It is the time of the year where illness sweeps through and knocks you sideways. Hello, if you're a returning viewer, lovely to see you. Lovely to see you back in these parts. If you're a new viewer, welcome. Come in, sit down, grab yourself a cuppa. We're here to talk about books. That's what we do here. My name's Louise. I live in the east of England with my husband, who is called the husband, and our lad, who is 13 and fabulous. Let me tell you, he is perfection as teenagers go, and he is full teenager, but glorious with it. And our 3 cats, who rule the roost with an iron paw. They are fabulous as well. So yes, we've had illness sweep through. The lad and I have just had a really vicious cold cough. Both of us are kind of always tempted by the coughs. You know, the colds we can take or leave, but coughs we're like, oh, let's fully embrace the chestiness. Whereas the husband's had the COVID. Yes, he was fully COVIDed. He's been really poorly, and which has been horrible. But we think he's turned the corner and is coming out of it now. It's been really horrible for him. It's not nice at all. So my thoughts go out to anybody that is not well or is suffering with it. It's still so prevalent, isn't it? I don't know how it is in your nook, your corner of the world, but here it's quite rife and things are still getting cancelled. That's the way of it, I gather. So I have taken a couple of weeks off because of illness, and now I'm back and I'm going to do my January wrap up. I know it is the middle of February nearly, and not on the 385 days of January. Oh, that was a long one. Whipping through February we are. But I wanted to talk about some of the books that I read, tell you the books that I read in January, and the book I'm currently reading. I'm about 3 pages in. I haven't yet fully launched into it. And I thought I would just start off with a couple of comments. So when I'm going to do the wrap-ups, I'm going to have a look at what you've been saying, have a look in the comments, and reply to any questiones that I find through this quick flick through. Let's have a look. Thank you anybody that leaves a comment. Thank you anybody that watches it, firstly. But if you leave a comment, then that is just glorious. Please know I always read them. So yeah, so Deborah said, I asked what is the last book that came into your house? Either that you bought or you borrowed or you snaffled from a friend. So Deborah said The Left-Handed Booksellers of London, which is by Garth Nix, I do believe, was the last book I got. I'm in the cosy club of a local bookshop and the bookseller has some great recommendations each month. This was one of them. I have got that book somewhere. Can I see it? Is it on that shelf over there? Why I always have to try and find it, I don't know. But it is one of my things. No, must be in that bookcase over there. Anyway, it's over there somewhere. If you came into the house, it's over there in that bookcase. So now you know. Karen has just finished The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I showed, and I loved it. And it's not what I normally read. Oh, she went to Barter Books, which is in Alnwick, in the north of England, last June, and it was huge. Oh, so good, so good. 3 Dog Mum, I just love your spirit, and I am very fond of yours too. I don't comment much, but I always smile when I see an upload from you, and I did a big smile when I saw that comment, so we are both loving of each other. Lou G said yesterday she received the Everyman's Library edition of Sense and Sensibility and Mansfield Park. So her Jane Austen set is finally complete. Lou, I am loving that. I have some Jane Austens up there. Some of those are Jane Austens, and I have Jane Austens in the other room as well. So, oh, that's such a good. My January purchase, this is Nicole Reed, my January purchase was The House on Needless Street by Katarina Ward. Haven't read it yet, but it looks so good. I have seen that around on the booktubes. I don't know about you. Last book I've got, this is Sunny Beams. That's a brilliant name. It's The Crossing Places by Ellie Griffiths. So far it's okay, not great, but not bad either. That's a tricky one. Ooh, Rebecca received Wintering by Catherine May for Christmas and read it. As I live in Devon and enjoy walking the South West Coast path, she's walked small bits like me, and she read The Salt Path too. It's great. Let's have a look. Kat said, Louise, love that you're back. I love that you're back here too. Last book to arrive here is Dragman by Stephen Appleby. Not aware of such a thing. A surprisingly dark, I like, but funny and profound graphic novel. Can recommend. Thank you very much. Anything else? Let's see if I can see a book that I haven't heard before. Here we go. This is from Andrea S. The last book that arrived at my home is The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forrester. It's about the Battle of the Atlantic during World War II. Wow, that sounds brilliant. Where do you purchase all of your books? So I purchase my books. Oh, I've just seen another comment which I'll reply to. I purchase all of my books various places. So I do use the interweb for if I can find that they are cheaper. I use bookshop.org or I use second-hand books via Amazon. So I quite like Greener Books. They're a really good second-hand book place. I have just bought a whole load of books from eBay, which I shall be showing you very soon. Sometimes I do use Amazon because we use Amazon Prime, so that financially it's easier for me. I got some vouchers for Christmas, and so the book I'm currently reading was a book I used my voucher for. It was a book token voucher, and I went to the Waterstones in Cambridge, which is not too far from me, and I had a good old browse, and I got a couple of books from my wish list. So I always carry on my phone, I've got a wish list of books that I note down, books that people mention and that I see on the old interwebs. And it can be that it's on Instagram, or it can be that I've heard about it on the radio, or it can be that through watching BookTube, so watching some of your channels that you have. So I do encourage anybody that watches here that has a channel to please mention it in the comments below so that we can watch each other, because it's a good way of finding new channels. And so keep an eye out in the comments, because people mention channels and then you can support them as well. That would be cool. That would be lovely. So people mention books there, and I note them down on my wish list. Now, I don't go and tend to buy them straight away. I leave things lingering on my wish list because I can be enthused in the moment, and then actually when I come back 2 months later, 3 months later, a year later, I go, actually, I'm not into that now, and I'm quite glad that I didn't buy it at the time. So I do let things simmer. Of course, there's the old impulse buys of when I'm wandering around and I see something and I think, oh, I just feel in the mood for that kind of thing. So yes, that's where I go. I do find, and I don't know whether you find this as well, that as a romance reader, a girl that likes a bit of a romance in her life, I struggle to find in my bookshops, actual physical, bookshops where I can go and fondle books, I find it hard to get romances that aren't the trendy, more, I don't know, the more kind of acceptable face of romance. So it's the newer kind. It's the kind of the ones that are aimed, I feel that are very much kind of contemporary romance, I guess. Historical romance, or just classic, pure romance books where there's a lady in the embrace of another and maybe her top has been dishevelled, and her hair is of windswept and she's looking adoringly, maybe a little bit alarmed, because he's, or her, the passion towards her is such. Those kind of covers, you just don't get to see them in the bookshops that I go into. So, and I do browse. I do love a romance section, but it tends to be the kind of graphic covers, heavy in the pastels. So, the kind of cartoony covers. That seems to be a real trend at the moment. So I struggle with those. So those I do have to order in. So yeah, that was a long answer. You might not have wanted such a detailed answer, but that's the way I'm feeling right at this moment. Lucky you. Lucky you. So I just saw this question. The newest books in my home, this is from BJ Minton. Hello. The newest books in my home are One Shot by Lee Child and Triptych by Karen Slaughter. They are on my favourite author list. Got them at our used bookstore. Thumbs up for that. Have you tried these authors? Yes. So Lee Child, I got one in the middle of the series because it's a continuous. I don't know whether you can read them standalone. So I started to read it and I had a kind of like realisation. I'm right in the middle of a line and what I need to do is I need to go back and start. Karen Slaughter, I began reading Karen Slaughter way back when, in the midst of time, when I used to work in a bookshop many, many, many years ago in London, in the city, and we had a proof of a Karen Slaughter book and I read it, and that was like her first novel. And I read them religiously for when they came out for quite a few years, and then I found them a tad repetitive. So I haven't read one for years. Again, I think some of her characters are continuous, and I always think if it's her continuous characters, it's quite good to go back and read them in sequence. So if there is a standalone Karen Slaughter that you would recommend that you think is top, BJ Minton, then I'm looking at you and I'm going to ask for a recommendation. So I would also say to anybody, have you got a recommendation of a standalone thriller that you thought was really good? Because I am in the mood for a standalone thriller which will grab me and keep me going. It can be a crime thriller, it could be a horror thriller, but I want a kind of thriller, standalone. And looking forward to seeing the recommendations for that. So please leave comments for me because I'm always going to read them. And each month when I do my wrap up, I will read what the comments are. So what did I read in January? I didn't read as much as I thought I'd read in January. I guess it was slightly kiboshed with illness, but I actually thought I read more than I did. But I read 5 books in January, and I'm going to say fine, that's okay for me. My reading is coming back. I am reading more and more each month at the moment, so I look forward for February being a better month than January. That is my goal. Let's say that right now. Let's say that to the ether. I am saying that I'm going to read more in February than I read in the 382 days of January. So the first book I finished in January, I have a list of the books that I read. This is my reading list. Otherwise I'd never remember them. Dorothy L. Sayers' Clouds of Witness. It's a Lord Peter Wimsey mystery. So how far does this come into Dorothy L. Sayers? I don't know how far we are in it in the series of Lord Peter Wimsey's, but he was quite an established character by this point. Yes, Dorothy L. Sayers, Lord Peter Wimsey. It's from the golden age of crime. He is an aristocratic sleuth, works for the government, and in this book he is called to defend his brother and find out whether his brother, who's his brother, does it say? The Duke of Denver, stands accused of murder, stands trial for his life in the House of Lords, and that tells you all about it really. And it's Lord Peter Wimsey to save the day. It was written in 1926, so it's quite an old one. I have a up and down relationship with Dorothy L. Sayers books. Some of them I really like, some of them not so keen on. It depends on how. I noticed in this one, an awful lot of exclamation marks. There's an awful lot of gosh, everything is said in high tension. And it depends on how much high tension there is in the books as to whether I enjoy them. I prefer slightly less high tension. It's all kind of gosh, wow, whoa, and everybody was, I feel, quite caricature in this, and I think it's the heightenedness that she is bringing forward, which does make it jolly, but at the same time I found it just a little bit irritating. However, flew through it. Easier for you to say. Would I recommend it as the first Dorothy L. Sayers to go for? No, don't. What is a good Dorothy L. Sayers to start with? Probably Strong Poison. It's one of the better known ones, and I would probably start with that and see how you like, whether you like the style. It is a very definite style to the books, but they are enjoyable. So that was it. Beautiful cover as well. I got this from a Secret Santa. Well done then. The second book I read, which I was reading alongside that one, is a true crime book that I listened to. And on the Audible, I don't have a cover, so you're going to have to imagine the cover here. It is The Murder of Sophie, How I Hunted and Haunted the West Cork Killer by Michael Sheridan. So this is about the murder of Sophie Tuscan du Plantier in Ireland in 1996, I want to say. 96, 97. Do you know, I have watched and read so many things about the murder of Sophie Tuscan du Plantier. Let me just... Sophie Tuscan du Plantier, 23rd of December 1996. She was brutally murdered, and on the west coast of Ireland, just outside of her house. It was incredibly well known at the time in Ireland. I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember hearing anything about it in this country. Obviously, in Ireland, it was big news, and it has maintained. It's still rumbling on. They're not sure who the killer is. They can't prove who it was. There has been no confession, maybe. But I first heard about it through the podcast West Cork, which so many other people do it, and I have read and I have watched so many things about it since. I feel like they could call me in if they needed some help. I wouldn't be a lot of help actually, but they could call me in because I have listened and read and watched so many things about it, and this was the latest thing that I read, although I listened to it, and it's called The Murder of Sophie, How I Was Hunted and Haunted the West Cork Killer by Michael Sheridan. I am not going to tell you much about it here because I'm going to do a true crime video, and I will talk about it there because I'll talk about the other books and the programmes that I've watched. So I don't want to say too much here. It was long, if I remember rightly. Let me see how long it is. So obviously it is a chunky one. Let me...
West Cork.
There we are. 17 hours. 17 hours it was. Very in-depth. And all I could say was he loathes with a passion. He absolutely just detests the person that he thinks is the killer. And I've not read a book where somebody's feelings were so on show and how he didn't care. And the viciousness of which he talks about the killer was startling at times. And I have to say, quite refreshing. Because he was so articulate, the author is so articulate, and so the reason I feel like this is, and it was quite fascinating for that, but I'm not going to go into any more details about that. But if you are interested in that case, I do recommend it, but I'm not going to go into more, but quite good. Right, the third book that I read was Murder on Cold Street by Sherry Thomas. This is the 5th in the Lady Sherlock series. It's great. I think it was... Why have you gone blank? No, you're back again. I think this was one of the best. Out of the 5, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good. The actual mystery in this was very good. Very entertaining. Kept me interested the whole time. I wanted to know what was happening, who did what, why they did it. So I thought that was really good, and I could also see it. I could see what was occurring and what was happening. It was really well described. The characters were really good. There's lots of yearning and longing in this. Oh, I really enjoyed it. There we are. So that was my 3rd book. So I started with a kind of middling book, and then I got a good audiobook, and that was a very good physical copy. After my 2nd audiobook, and this is what I do, I tend to always have a audiobook on the go. I will show you what it is. Bring it up. It was the Agatha Christie read for Read Agatha 2022, and it was The Man in the Brown Suit. And this is my edition. I actually don't have a physical edition. I am trying to find a older edition with an older cover rather than buying one of the newer ones. Although I do love that jacket design, which is a very much a 1920s, 30s period kind of picture. This was The Man in the Brown Suit. I must have read it at some point, but I have no memory of it. So that was joyous because it was finding a new Agatha. Oh my word. Has anybody spotted my lovely new edition? Just up there. As you know, if you've been a long time viewer, I am fanatical about Agatha Christie. I adore her books. I think Dame Agatha is glorious, or was glorious. No, she still is glorious. In my life, she still is glorious. So last year I did the Read Agatha 2021. And so they rebranded it and made it Read Agatha 2022. I love the fact they're doing that. They're focusing on travel this year, so it's a lot of the books feature travel. January's was... I can't remember what the prompt was, but anyway, the book suggested for this month was The Man in the Brown Suit, and as I didn't know it, I got it on Audible. Loved it. Really brilliant. I will talk more about it when I do an Agatha book roundup, but that was a really good... It's a standalone book. It does feature Colonel Race, who we meet in the later books, but it is a complete standalone. It actually had the most unusual love affair in it as well. And there were some quotes in it that I was really astounded by, because I never think of Agatha as a particularly romantic writer. But there were some really kind of almost overblown romantic sentiments and strong feelings. Obviously, there's no kind of source or, physicality to it. But there was a real depth, and it reminded me of her, that she was a woman capable of tremendous attachment and feeling, and we don't view her in that way. We view her very much as a crime writer, and yet that she, as a woman, was a tremendously passionate and had very deep feelings, and was capable of expressing them. And it really surprised me in the book, and it kind of like took me back. And I was really pleased about that. I really like that when a book surprises you about an author I know so well, and yet there was something else about her that surprised me and I found joyous. So The Man in the Brown Suit, really good. Thought it was excellent. And then the last book I read was also for an online book club, and this is to do with CrimeCon UK, and this was Talking with Serial Killers, is the series, and in the book is Sleeping with Psychopaths by Christopher Berry-Dee. I bought this because in physical copy because it was reduced. So it has literally just come out this in January. The 382 days of January it came out in. It should be £15, 14.99, and it was actually £4 on Amazon. And I was like, that's a bargain. I shall read it. I've never read any of these books, and there's an entire series of them which I have spotted in the old supermarket and always thought, I wonder what they're about. I did not love this. I did not like this at all. I kind of rage read most of it, which is unusual for me. If I don't like a book, I quite often just go, that's it, that's enough. Farewell, we're not for each other. But I did not like this. He's a very well-known author, very popular, obviously produces a lot of books. What's that noise? Sorry if you can hear that. Somebody's obviously doing some cutting or something. So can you hear it? It sounds like this kind of like this drill or anyway, circular store. That was anyway. I got distracted then. Probably distracted. So this is a chilling study of the innocent lovers of savage murderers. So it is. It features like 20 different murderers, monsters, killers, and their partners, and it purportedly is to look at how it impacted them and how they were innocent, and to be very much on their side, and yet there were some really unpleasant comments directed at the partners. Majority of them, the women, of the male vile, evil killers. And yet, there was some really, one of them said, I don't know whether she's got a brain because of this. And the style grated me. It's very conversational, as though we're just talking. And he actually says, this is my style, as though we are just talking. I'm telling you about this. So there were three things that I didn't like about it. I didn't like that conversational style, which was violent in tone and violent in expression. So the words that he uses, if they were talking to me, I would find really unpleasant, because he's very kind of very sweary, very violent in tone, very grandiose, and I did not like that tone. For a book that is supposed to be about the innocent people that find themselves, partners with these they're either in abusive relationships or have literally no idea that the person that they are with is doing these deeds. There was a lot focused on the man that was doing it and what they did and what their stuff, rather than what the people that it was supposed to be talking about. So it would hash over everybody's crimes again in vivid, vile detail, and seemed to be and he was married to so and so and she didn't know. She should have known. Look at all these red flags, and there was an awful lot of victim blaming. To me, there felt, for a book that's supposed to be not, it felt very victim blaming. So I didn't like that at all, and I think there was a lot of misogyny in this book, and I'm sure Mr. Christopher Berry-Dee would be able to point to lots of points where he was very nice, complimentary, but there was a strong whiff of, I can't believe that these women didn't know about it, and it's their own fault, and they should have left, and why didn't they leave? There was a lot of victim blaming, there was a lot of misogyny, there was a lot of crudeness towards the women. I just found it so unpleasant. So you can imagine I didn't read every word and study it, but I found I'm really not happy with this book whatsoever. And I will not be keeping this. This book will be going. This book will be leaving the house. I've basically kept it to show you it, and then it's going. I do not want this. I will not recommend it. Did not like. If I gave Goodreads kind of style ratings, it would be below a 1. I suppose a 1 because I finished it, but I rage-filled. And it's inaccurate. Wrong. it gets it wrong. It gets it wrong. So, for example, it was very much saying that Anne Rule, who we all know, if you're a true crime reader, you know Anne Rule, you know that she's brilliant. Well, I think she's brilliant. And he was basically saying, well, she slept with Ted Bundy. And nowhere does it ever suggest that she did it. And she categorically says, I didn't. He viewed me as a mother. I viewed him as a son. There was nothing in it. We were just friends. We just were kind of work colleagues and good friends. And that his girlfriend was really glad when she met me, because then she realised, oh, actually, you're not kind of like, he talks about you in such a way that make me jealous. And actually, when I meet you, I realise that there is nothing between you. So it's plain that there is nothing between you. Nobody suggests that they were intimate. And he's like, yeah, well, she slept with him. No, she didn't. And again, it was that kind of casualness about it. But I just, oh. So the month ended rage-filled. It was. I did not like. Can you tell I didn't like it? So that was that. So that was the end of that month. And then I moved on. But I will tell you about that next month. I've finished two books already this month. I'm a good halfway through an audiobook, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. And this is the book that I have just picked up, my physical book that I am reading. And it is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalo. I'm not saying that right, and I apologise. So I'm not going to say it again because I'm going to butcher that, but it's the Kingdom of the Wicked. So this is the first in a series, I gather. It's luscious and dark. Well, hello. Delicious and intoxicating. Doesn't actually tell me what it's about, but it tells me that it's great. Two sisters, one murder, a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself. Now, I have kind of been suggested that this is kind of a romance, is what I'm hoping it is for. I'm hoping it's a romance. Look at that, that's a great illustration. The 7 Circles of Hell. So, kind of fantasy, urban fantasy romance? Maybe? That's what I'm going for. I had it on my wish list. I bought it with a book token. I'm hopeful I'm going to enjoy it. I am literally that far through. So I have read the prologue. No, I'm still on the prologue. I need to read some more of that. And I will come back to you. I shall report back to you as to how much I'm loving it. Loving it. I'm hoping I am. So these are the books that I have shown you. There you go, the obligatory. Let's do it like that. The obligatory books. And there we go, BookTube friends. I've given you a little task to give me a standalone thriller that you recommend. It can be a backlist thriller as well. Don't feel like you have to do a new book. It could be new to you, or it could be a book that you've always really enjoyed. I don't mind. I do quite like backlist thrillers or backlist titles. Don't feel like it has to be a new book. But if it is a new thriller that you want to recommend to me and to everybody else, that would be grand. So I look forward to reading all your suggestions and being inspired and popping them onto my wish list. And I shall report back. This has been lovely, BookTube. Let's do this again.